Our article today is called Lesson of a Lifetime, Part 2 of 3 by Stephen G. Bloom. Let's start with some vocabulary. Our first word is appalled, which means to find horrible or disgusting. And then we have fragile, which means easily broken. Next we have calling attention to oneself, which means to get attention because of something someone did. Bigots is someone who has prejudice toward cultures or races other than his own. And furious means very angry. No-nonsense demeanor means very straightforward or direct. If someone is tenacious, they don't give up. And endear is likable. Now I'm going to read through the article for you. Lesson of a Lifetime, Part 2 of 3 by Stephen G. Bloom. Elliot shared the essays with her mother, who showed them to the editor of the weekly Riceville Recorder. He printed them under the headline, How Discrimination Feels. The Associated Press followed up, quoting Elliot as saying she was dumbfounded by the exercise's effectiveness. I think these children walked in colored child's moccasins for a day, she was quoted as saying. That might have been the end of it, but a month later, Elliot says, Johnny Carson called her. Would you like to come on the show? He asked. Elliot flew to the NBC studio in New York City. On The Tonight Show, Carson broke the ice by spoofing Elliot's rural roots. I understand this is the first time you've flown, Carson asked, grinning. On a plane it is, Elliot said to appreciative laughter from the studio audience. She chatted about the experiment, and before she knew it, was whisked off the stage. Hundreds of viewers wrote letters saying Elliot's work appalled them. How dare you try this cruel experiment out on white children, one said. Black children grow up accustomed to such behavior, but white children, there's no way they could possibly understand it. It's cruel to white children and will cause them great psychological damage. Elliot replied, Why are we so worried about the fragile egos of white children who experience a couple of hours of made-up racism one day, when blacks experience real racism every day of their lives? The people of Riceville did not exactly welcome Elliot home from New York with a hayride. Looking back, I think part of the problem was that, like the residents of other small Midwestern towns I've covered, many in Riceville felt that calling attention to oneself was poor manners, and that Elliot had shone a bright light on not just on herself, but on Riceville. People all over the United States would think Riceville was full of bigots. Some residents were furious. When Elliot walked into the teacher's lounge the next Monday, several teachers got up and walked out. When she went downtown to do errands, she heard whispers. She and her husband, Darrell Elliot, then a grocer, have 4 children, and they too felt a backlash. Their 12-year-old daughter, Mary, came home from school one day in tears, sobbing that her 6th-grade classmates had surrounded her in the school hallway and taunted her by saying her mother would soon be sleeping with black men. Brian, the Elliots' oldest son, got beaten up at school, and Jane called the ringleaders. Mother, your son got what he deserved, the woman said. When Sarah, the Elliots' oldest daughter, went to the girls' bathroom in junior high, she came out of a stall to see a message scrawled in red lipstick on the mirror. Nigger lover. Elliot is nothing if not stubborn. She would conduct the exercise for the next 9 more years she taught the 3rd grade. The next 8 years she taught 7th and 8th graders before giving up teaching in Riceville in 1985, largely to conduct the eye-color exercise for groups outside the school. In 1970, she demonstrated it for educators at a White House conference on children and youth. ABC broadcast a documentary about her work. She has led training sessions at General Electric, Exxon, AT&T, IBM, and other corporations, and she has lectured to the IRS, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Department of Education, and the Postal Service. She has spoken at more than 350 colleges and universities. She has appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show 5 times. The 4th of 5 children, Elliot was born on her family's farm in Riceville in 1933 and was delivered by her Irish-American father himself. She was 10 before the farmhouse had running water and electricity. She attended a one-room rural schoolhouse. Today, at 72, Elliot, who has short white hair, a penetrating gaze, and a no-nonsense demeanor, shows no signs of slowing. She and Daryl split their time between a converted schoolhouse in Ozagi, Iowa, a town 18 miles from Riceville, and a home near Riverside, California. Elliot's friends and family say she's tenacious and has always had a reformer's zeal. She was an excellent school teacher, but she has a way about her, says 90-year-old Riceville native Patricia Bodenham, who has known Elliot since Jane was a baby. She stirs people up. Vision and tenacity may get results, but they don't always endear a person to their neighbors. Mention 2 words, Jane Elliott, and you get a flood of emotions from people, says Jim Cross, the Riceville Recorder's editor these days. You can see the look on their faces. It brings up immediate anger and hatred. When I met Elliot in 2003, she hadn't been back to Riceville in 12 years. We walked into the principal's office at Riceville Elementary School, Elliot's old haunt. The secretary on duty looked up, startled, as if she had just seen a ghost. "We want to see room number 10, Elliot said. It was typical of Elliot's blunt style. No good morning, no small talk. The secretary said the south side of the building was closed, something about waxing the hallways. "We just want to peek in," I volunteered. "We'll just be a couple of minutes." "Absolutely not. This here is Jane Elliott," I said. "She taught in the school for 18 years. "I know who she is." We backed out. I was stunned. Elliot was not. "They can't forget me," she said, "and because of who they are, they can't forgive me." We stopped on Woodlawn Avenue, and a woman in her mid-40s approached us on the sidewalk. "That you, Miss Elliott?" Jane shielded her eyes from the morning sun. "Melinda? Melinda Weisenhunt?" "Miss Elliott, how are you?" The two hugged, and Miss Weisenhunt had tears streaming down her cheeks. Now 45, she had been in Elliot's third-grade class in 1969. "Let me look at you," Elliot said. "You know, sweetheart, you haven't changed one bit. You've still got the same sweet smile, and you'll always have it." "I've never forgotten the exercise," Weisenhunt volunteered. "It changed my life. Not a day goes by without me thinking about it, Miss Elliott. When my grandchildren are old enough, I'd give anything if you'd try the exercise out on them. Would you? Could you?" Tears formed in the corners of Elliot's eyes.